I'm so honored to be here today with such an amazing group of individuals. It's a privilege to be able to share my experiences and thoughts with such a motivated and impressive group. Today, I want to talk to you about disruption, innovation, and tell you my entrepreneurial story. If I were to ask you, who are the greatest disruptors of all time, who comes to mind? Steve Jobs. The iPhone changed everything. Not just how we listen to music, take taxis, and take pictures. It changed the very fabric of how we live our lives. What about Jeff Bezos? Did you know that 55% of all product searches are started on Amazon? Today, Amazon carries 250 million products. Walmart only carries 4.2 million. Entrepreneurs and disruptors are everywhere. With the cost to create a new organization dropping to minuscule rates, every business at every time is ripe for revolutionary innovation. It's important to remember that there is a natural lethargy in most industries to keep doing things the same way, because familiar is what humans prefer. Reasonable people maintain the status quo, and only the unreasonable question it. Disruption and revolution are also fun words, but the receivers of disruption and revolution, they usually get hurt. The people who get disrupted will also always resist. For example, taxi cab drivers will always resist Uber, even if it's a substantially better system. 19 years ago, my wife Marla and I had the lucky opportunity to revolutionize shopping for beauty products with the creation of Bluemercury. Over the years, we've had the good fortune to work with innovators, revolutionaries, and creatives in the fashion and beauty industry. Disruptors are everywhere. My goal is to have you leave this talk thinking, what am I going to disrupt today? What is Bluemercury? Bluemercury is the largest and fastest growing luxury beauty products and retail spa chain in the nation, with stores from coast to coast. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary. We will have nearly 200 stores and close to 2,000 employees. Macy's acquired our company in March of 2015. Although Bluemercury has evolved a lot since our founding, we still pride ourselves on being the friendly neighborhood cosmetics store where you can get luxury cosmetics and expert, honest advice. While we have seen tremendous success, I've also seen spectacular failure. I'm going to talk to you about both of those today. We started Bluemercury when I was 31 years old. I was a crazy serial entrepreneur who believed that anything was possible. When I was 10 years old, I was shoveling snow and had contracts with every house in the neighborhood. In high school, I started another company. In college, yet another successful business. And while in my dorm room at Cornell University, I started my fourth company with my brother, which eventually became one of America's largest chain store service businesses, U.S. Maintenance, which was ultimately acquired by a Fortune 500 company. After completely upending the commercial service industry, my company was very successful, yet I wasn't totally satisfied. I had an urge for my next big opportunity, and with the advent of the internet, I knew the world was poised for yet another revolutionary change. I also knew that all great entrepreneurs ride some great wave. Rockefeller, industrialization. Henry Ford, the advent of the combustion engine. Bill Gates, the software revolution, and so on. I was looking for another industry to disrupt. Okay, I'm going to go back here. When I was growing up, everything was sold at department stores. Kitchen goods, electronics, furniture, and clothes. That was really the only place you went to shop. By the late 1990s, Everything had been pulled out of the department stores. Kitchen goods by Williams-Sonoma, furniture by Pottery Barn, and electronics by Best Buy. And everything else was being brought online. Books by Amazon, toys by eToys, shoes by Zappos. I thought, why not cosmetics? While living in Washington, D.C., I had also discovered a little beauty boutique in Georgetown called EFX. It carried a couple of interesting cosmetics brands, such as NARS and Kiehl's. These brands were new at the time. I would say it was like a light bulb went off in my head, but it was more like fireworks. Back then, you could only buy cosmetics at department stores or drugstores. There were no freestanding cosmetic stores at all. No Sephora, no MAC stores, no Ulta. In 1999, everything was still sold behind glass counters. The staff were often snobby. It was intimidating. Shopping for cosmetics was a problem that needed a solution. Many people don't know that Bluemercury actually started as an e-commerce only company. 1999 was the height of the first internet boom. We pitched a venture firm on the idea of selling luxury cosmetics, which were not offered on the internet. We knocked on the doors of everyone we knew and raised $1 million in just 2 weeks with just an idea. That was the start of Bluemercury. We started to build our website and a large organization around us. We had 20 employees before we even had our first sale. 60 days after incorporating the company, we realized there were 3 other competitors with at least $10 million in funding. That's 10 times our war chest. We quickly went out to raise more money, but we were unable due to the competition. Our company was pre-revenue and had a really high cash burn rate. That's code for a lot going out and virtually nothing coming in. And then, boom, NASDAQ crashed in February of 2000, and all the venture funds completely stopped investing. Everywhere we turned, the doors were slammed in our face. Soon, we were down to our last $150,000 in the bank. We were in a lot of trouble. We never planned to own a store because the investment community wanted pure internet plays. The retail store combined with a website as a strategy was frowned upon at the time. However, as our internet company continued to burn money, the end was clearly in sight for us. And we realized our only way to retrieve a return for our investors was to combine our online business with a physical world store. Marla and I decided we were going to buy that EFX beauty boutique we had seen earlier in Georgetown. It would give us a steady supply of cosmetics, a warehouse for our internet business, and even customers walking in the front door, which we seem to be really lacking on our e-commerce site. Just when things were looking bright, we learned that a company named Sephora, whose business model was very similar to ours, and they were owned by LVMH, a billion-dollar luxury giant, was entering the U.S., and one of their first 5 stores was landing right next to us in Georgetown. We had just barely escaped the clutches of bankruptcy, and this is what comes next? But with the added competition of Sephora at the very beginning of our evolution, we had to learn who we were, what we were about, and really define our point of difference. It was our 3rd store that we opened in 2001 in Philadelphia that was a key turning point. We set our sights on Rittenhouse Square. I'd grown up in the city, and I knew the community. We could even sleep on my sister's couch if we had to. It was a bet the company move for us. We used all the rest of our cash to test a store in a completely different market. If it failed, we probably would not have been able to expand. But it was a smashing success. We started to gain momentum. Although our business was generating positive cash flow, To accelerate our expansion, we had to raise more money. We were introduced to a group called Capital Investors, an angel investment group that met monthly over dinner and included the founders of America Online, Steve Case, and Ted Leonsis. This was a big deal, as AOL was the Google of its day. Marla and I will never forget that dinner meeting. We walked into the room with a very thick, very buttoned-up business plan and made our pitch with numbers, spreadsheets, pie charts, and graphs. At the end of the pitch, Ted Leonsis looked at me and said, "Barry, you're boring me with detail. Tell me in a few sentences you could become a public company and I can get rich if I invest." Before I could even respond, Ted began to tell me the story of his fabulous investment in Outback Steakhouse. One bloomin' onion is $7. 500 bloomin' onions per day was $3,500. And that plus all the other food made a $2 million restaurant. That's what one restaurant looked like. Here's what 10 Outbacks look like, then 100 Outbacks, and then poof, a public company. I walked out of the room, not sure what to expect. I waited by the bar, waiting for them to come get me. When they called us back in, they told me that the answer was yes. We took as much money as we could get this time because we had learned the hard lesson of what it felt like to almost run out of money. We started aggressively opening stores and had a really compelling business model. We had a high return on invested capital. We got up to about 10 stores. Although we were a small company, we had an outsized reputation and had become known as something of the sort of Starbucks of cosmetics. The nice thing about our retail stores was that they produced cash. We only needed more capital to accelerate store openings. During Bluemercury's lifetime until 2006, we'd only raised at or about $3.5 million. As we accelerated our store openings, improved our business model, our revenue growth accelerated even more. In January 2005, I started getting calls from public companies and private equity funds that were interested in buying Bluemercury. I quickly realized that a client who acts as his own investment banker has a fool as a client. So I hired an investment banker. On June 15, 2006, we recapitalized the business. We took on a new partner, the Invest Group, a private equity firm made up of former BCG and McKinsey & Company consultants. They gave us the firepower and insight to expand nationwide and start our private label business. We created two brands, M-61 Skincare and Lunaster Cosmetics. Each has become a runaway success, and our best-selling product, which you see up here, Power Glow Peel, well, we sell one every 8 seconds. Then, in March of 2015, Macy's acquired our company, which was an amazing recognition of the innovation and value that we had created. We're so happy to be part of the Macy's family, who's provided resources necessary to accelerate our expansion and invest in our infrastructure, such as their amazing West Coast Innovation Lab in San Francisco. Many people don't realize that Macy's is the 5th largest e-commerce company in the country, and that 1 out of every 2 Americans shopped at a Macy's store last year. In the end, our model became the wave of the future, and Bluemercury was credited with coining the phrase, clicks and bricks, and a Harvard Business School case study has become one of the most popular entrepreneur case studies of all time, a case which we still teach to this very day. It's been an incredible 20-year journey, and it's still continuing. Here are my 8 lessons for entrepreneurs. They are my insights and thoughts to help get you thinking about disrupting an industry and starting and scaling a new venture. You can start from scratch, or you can do this inside your existing business or company. Lesson number 1, get in the game. It's true, great businesses are as difficult to find as they are rare. but it's never a bad time to start a company. I decided to get in the game right out of college. You do not have to obtain work experience first, because experience is often what you get when you don't get what you want. Too many would-be entrepreneurs over-scrutinize their plan, leading to what I call analysis paralysis. Just find an MVP, or a minimum viable product, to launch you into the game. You start, fail, and then just pivot to the next strategy. Pivot is a new term describing acceptable failure or a necessary next step to finding success. And the truth is, that is the hard thing about hard things. There's no real recipe for the dynamic uncertainty of starting a business and the business creation process. So for me, it's like Nike said, just do it. Lesson number 2, solve a problem. No problem, no solution, no company. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity you have to create revolutionary change. This is where ideas come from. The creation of some of America's greatest innovations came from big problems that need solutions. Always ask yourself, what is the problem I'm solving for my customers? No one will pay you to solve a non-problem. Lesson number 3, Droom. Don't run out of money. If you run out of money, it's game over. Identify exactly how much money you need in reserve and raise money when you can get it. Be scrappy, focus on keeping your costs low, and drive revenue. Every morning I wake up and I just try to figure out where I'm going to die, and I never go there. It sounds funny, but it's one of the most important lessons in business and in life. It's okay to take risks, just not the ones that'll kill you or your company. I've been called a business maverick, but the truth is I've been an exceedingly good risk manager. Building Bluemercury taught me that cash flow is the lifeblood of any business and the best way to shore up a company's future. Benjamin Franklin wisely noted, a man whose outflow is greater than his intake, then his upkeep will result in his downfall. Lesson number 4, the first year is the hardest. The first year is the hardest. But don't get discouraged. Think about it in terms of software. Going from version 0 to version 1 is really buggy while you're creating something new. V1 to V2 is also buggy, but nowhere near as difficult as V0 to V1. When Bluemercury almost ran out of money in year 1, I had a few days when I really doubted myself. You're trying to figure out your business, trying to figure out how to inspire people, and doing everything yourself. Entrepreneurs, we're all like swans, seemingly gliding across the surface, but underneath, we're all paddling like hell. You have to sprint your first year. You'll ease into the marathon. Overnight successes are rare. It took Bluemercury 10 years to become an overnight success. Assemble a personal board of directors, not just for work, but for your life. For me, great advisors aren't just smart, but those who can impart incredible wisdom and perspective. Being smart is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Lesson 5, break the rules. When I came into the cosmetics industry in 1999, the majority of employees were part-time workers. I thought, what would happen if I gave our staff full-time work, benefits, and a true career path? We decided early on to put our people first, which was counter to the then current industry practice, and the so-called experts told me that my revolutionary ideas would never work. But by retaining full-time staff, we also retained their knowledge, customer relationships, and expertise. Today, our beauty experts are the most knowledgeable in the industry, essentially human Googles for beauty products. We broke the rules, and this became a source of our sustained competitive advantage and enduring secret weapon. Fortune favors the bold. Lesson number 6, find a partner. In every great business, there's almost invariably a second person, whether known to the public or not. It's rare that any entrepreneur has all the characteristics and the full skill set to go it alone. Do you know who Charlie Munger is? How about Paul Allen? Who was Steve Wozniak? If you don't know who they are, you should. These are the significant others of Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs, and are really widely recognized as the secret to the success of their better-known counterparts. Sharing a piece of the pie with a partner can be a smart strategic move, especially if the partnership leads to a larger overall pie. Additionally, it can shore up your likelihood of success. I could not have built Bluemercury by myself. My wife, Marla, and I built it together. She's not just an incredible wife, but she has a beautiful mind. When confronted with large data sets, she's always able to make sense of it in a way that very few can. Schopenhauer says talent is hitting a target no one else can hit, but genius is hitting a target no one else can see. Lesson number 7, nothing's great forever. Nothing is great forever. Markets fluctuate and stock markets drop. Never forget that both your micro and macroeconomic environments can transform in a split second. The Great Recession of 2008 wiped out some of America's fanciest, high-flying companies, never to return. The innovation curve has gone vertical in almost every category. For me, the bigger Bluemercury gets, the smaller I have to think. Although we operate in a glamorous business, we're data-driven and are always able to quickly connect the dots, find the white space, and see what's next. Additionally, if you have the opportunity to recapitalize your company and take some money off the table, do it. Assets are difficult to monetize, so never overlook your intersection with the almighty, elusive dollar. If the stock of your company is becoming a high-flying asset, there's nothing wrong with rebalancing your risk equation by selling part of your business and putting money away for your family. Lesson number 8, you can't do it all, but you can have it all. Aspiring entrepreneurs always ask me for advice about how to prioritize starting a company versus building a family. The answer is these are actually not mutually exclusive and aren't things to be accomplished serially. After a long day at Bluemercury HQ, I find incredible joy in the fact that I'm building a fun-loving, vibrant family while at the same time building an amazing company. Success does not demand relinquishing values such as family and community. Your family will actually increase your likelihood of success and stabilize you during your most challenging times. Each and every one of you is on an incredible journey, building your careers, your companies, and building your lives. Build your own journey, do it in your own way, and find your own path. And remember, we need more disruptors. I'll leave you with a list of books that I love. Thank you.
Okay, so last Q&A of the day.
Hi, thanks so much for that. I was curious if you could dive a little deeper into the acquisition of the brick and mortar store in Georgetown. Seemed like you glossed over it. It was a long story, but I was a little intrigued by how that acquisition occurred and how it seemed like that pivoted your company towards brick and mortar from e-commerce.
I would say that all successful entrepreneur stories tend to be romanticized, right? And sort of life is the only thing that you live forward, but really only understood backwards. But it was a daunting time for us. I had raised money. I'd convinced my wife, who was, I thought, and she thought was heading back to McKinsey & Company, to come join my venture. Our company was collapsing. I intersected with a store in Georgetown. I couldn't get access to these luxury brands, which I promised my investors I would get access to. I found this business. I looked to acquire this business, and what I quickly realized, like every other entrepreneurial venture, she was also going bankrupt. And so what I found myself was actually more focused on the liabilities of her business than what it could actually bring me at certain points. So I did find myself at a certain period managing and running two failing companies at the same time. I like to say, people say, what's it like to do that? I said, it feels like you're eating glass. But in the end, I pushed through it, and there's a book called The Right Stuff. People say, what is the right stuff? And it's really intestinal fortitude. I don't know an easier way to say it. There was a lot of sleepless nights, but we fought through it. And we acquired the business, we made it work, and people said we were crazy, but it was really the wave of the future. And I'd always said I thought that it was nearly impossible to actualize your brand without a real-world presence. And I always thought that Amazon would open stores, and should have sent myself a certified letter. I'd show you that today. But they, of course, went ahead and bought Whole Foods. So I guess I've been vindicated.
Talk to me about the growth rate of the company. And I guess I'm also curious, maybe even a better story. What did you learn from Sephora next door? Do they have a different four-wall cost? Do you have a different approach to the customer that you might not have divined had they not been right there?
The honest answer to that question is I was pushed all the time and asked about Sephora. And I had a very, maybe not a smart answer to that. I always said, I don't care what Sephora's doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. And unless they're buying lipstick from me, it just doesn't matter to me. I'm going to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to let them do what they're doing. And I really focused on my strategy, what made us great, which was really a neighborhood strategy. They went into the malls, and that's what they were doing. And we really focused, and we had this belief. I had a belief early on. Again, I was vindicated. It's like any business. You pick a point in space, and if the world moves your way and you believe in the buggy whip, you're a winner. And probably that was not a great idea. We believed in this idea that densification was going to lead to localization. That was a theory that I had. And I always believed that as the world became more dense, as the world population scaled up and neighborhoods became more dense, the people were going to continue to shop in their neighborhoods where they live their lives, pick up their latte, and then walk on the streets. And I just believed that. And I thought that ultimately they would pop in for a lipstick or learn a quick tip or trick from Bluemercury. And this really worked for us. And so that was just really my main focus. I just didn't really have enough time in my day to listen to, there's so much noise out there. What are your competitors? I mean, you could just analysis paralysis. You could just listen to everybody. You could bet a lot of money on the fact that guys like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates didn't listen to anybody. I mean, you just read the book. They were just sort of heck bent on doing their thing. And that's really what I was doing. You may say sort of during the process that people thought that I should have spent more time analyzing my competitors, but that would have taken too much time for me. We really focused on servicing our customers and making our customers love us, and that's where we focused.
I got a quick question. So you're the COO and Marla's the CEO. It sounds like you founded the company. How did you decide how to split the titles up?
Well, it's really actually easy. In the world of fashion and beauty, generally the CEO, we're co-founders of the company. We could be co-CEOs. People say that, but the truth is just how we have a formal side to us. And so in the world of fashion and beauty, the CEO is typically a merchant. That's just how it's done. So Marla's more of the merchant, and so that's just how we did it. It's not really any sort of black magic or anything like that.
Sounds easy. Okay, who else? Other questions? Oh, got a bunch.
Thanks again for that wonderful walkthrough of your journey. When you hit that point where you had to decide what to do with the remaining cash that you had, what was it about a brick and mortar that, like, what about that made you feel that that was the best move for you at that time?
Easy, one word: survival. Every entrepreneur goes through it. I went into survival mode. I never know how candid to really get in these talks. I called my investors and said, guys, it was a great run. Those 180 days was great. And you put in $1 million, you lost all your money. So you've lost all your money now. So, and that didn't go over well. Some of our early investors were companies like the Carlyle Group. I mean, they make the M1 Abrams tank, so you can understand my trepidation with making that phone call. So, the truth of what happened was we had raised a lot of money. This was actually one of an incredible sort of lucky opportunity for me. I came to my investors and I said, we have very little revenue. We have an incredible burn of cash. Our only hope is to purchase this store. And they were dead set against it. They did not want to do it. And what they said, there's a law called corporate opportunity. The guy who created the Post-it note. He said to 3M, yeah, I did this on the weekends. I own the Post-it note. 3M's like, no, I don't think so. You were working at 3M. The Post-it note is ours. He was wrong. 3M was right. So I went to my investors and I said, we need to buy this store. And it's just an amazing luck of circumstances. They said, if you want to buy the store, buy it with your own money. And they waived corporate opportunity. So now I'm running two businesses, one I own 100% of, and one I don't. And what happened was, so these companies, imagine, are moving along. I've got a store business that's really cranking. Obviously, this business was cranking. And I got an internet business, which is failing. And ultimately, of course, we had to call up my investors and say, guys, we have to do a business combination. And there was a negotiation that began. I said, I'm going to merge them 10-1 in my favor. That would have ended up in a lot of problems for me. I said, how about 5-1? Ultimately, I think I did a 2-1 merger, and I completely diluted them. I came up to almost 100% of the company. And what came out of that was this amazing clicks and bricks business that was a home run and became Bluemercury. And so that's the truth of what happened. I don't know if that answered your question, but that was a little sort of snippet of my life at that time.
So you went forward with the brick and mortar purchase, even though that, like, you said it's for survival, but you bought it totally outside of the company.
I bought it outside the company. I owned 100% of that EFX store and Bluemercury. Now, there's this question. I don't want to get into too much detail. There's this idea or a concept, you guys will be dealing with this later in life, called time and attention. Right? So this idea, there's a legal premise of time and attention. So I had to get that waiver from them, right? Because I wasn't giving 100% of my time and attention to the internet business. And my argument to them was that the only way I could get supply, they were supplying the internet business. That's how I came across this store. I had a supply agreement with this physical world store. It was supplying products to my internet site, and I was selling them. And then I realized I needed to buy that store because I would shore up my supply line, right? The store was so powerful. They could turn off my supply at any minute, and this company I raised $1 million for would have no supply of products. It was hard to get the products. Of course, when I bought that business, I realized it was in trouble too, running these two troubled businesses at the same time. Obviously, when I did the business combination, things worked out.
Hi, thanks again for coming. Huge fan of Bluemercury. So my question for you is, we've seen Amazon be a huge disruptor in the retail space, and it's already started to affect fashion. Not yet beauty so much. Have you seen any changes, and how are you going to handle that?
Amazon is a force to be reckoned with, but in my opinion, Bluemercury's already beat Amazon in their own game. Why? Because, and this is not that we were geniuses, the harder I work, the luckier I get, I guess, but the whole premise of Amazon, is this sort of breadth of selection and convenience. That's what it is, right? The department stores used to have, that's where you went, breadth of selection and convenience, but they're not really convenient anymore, and you can get your breadth of selection online. But the answer is that Bluemercury, well, let me say one other thing. Amazon, one of their main premises really in detail is this idea of last mile delivery. This is a huge idea. Has anyone here not heard of last mile? This idea, you know, like I live in Bethesda, Maryland. There's a little white truck and it just sort of circles my neighborhood nonstop. And it just gets refueled and like replenished. And then it just drops products at my house. Yeah. Except that within like 500 feet of my house, there's a Bluemercury store. And I got to go there. I'm going there anyway to buy my coffee or to go to the Apple store, and there's a Bluemercury there. So we've sort of beaten them at their own game. We're just convening in the neighborhood where you live their life. So we have not seen an impact from Amazon at all. But I will say that the sort of Internet of Things, or IoT, has actually really driven share of wallet in our category because people really need to be camera ready at all time. Everybody's a celebrity. Instagram, Facebook, there were more pictures taken this year than every year combined since the invention of the camera. And so people are buying more in this category. People realize that their image is forever. They have to be ready at any time. Even our men are purchasing in the makeup category. We're seeing that more. Our customers are on CNBC. They're doing TED Talks. And so we're just seeing increased purchase in the category with really no effect from Amazon.
I think this might be the last question. So first thing I want to say is there's one thing that you haven't taken credit for, which is I live in a town where there's a Bluemercury, and it was a town, I won't say what town, but it's in northern New Jersey. And the town has been suffering a lot from people just going to the mall or just buying on
Summit.
Amazon. No.
Oh.
Bergen County, I'll put it like that. And then your store opened up. And what happened was people started to come to the downtown again. And businesses that were going out of business actually didn't go out of business because of all the people coming to your store. And it didn't just get the teens and the tweens, it got the moms and the grandmoms. And it's become, where I live, one of the major destinations for people on the weekends.
Millburn.
No. You're, all right, I'll tell you.
We have 200 stores. I don't know, but I'm guessing.
It's Ridgewood. It's Ridgewood.
Oh, Ridgewood. Okay.
And I will tell you, the girls also, the ladies, the women who go in there, everybody loves it because they come out looking better than they did when they went in, which is always nice. But more importantly, they learn something. So I think that, you guys deserve all the credit in the world for doing that. My second question, second thing is more of a question. Was there ever a moment along your journey where you had that aha, like we did it, we got it, we're there? Did you ever have that feeling, or have you always been searching for that white space that you mentioned before?
Okay, so two questions. I'll give you the aha moment first. Aha moment, I've had many aha moments, and they happen in every business. I mean, how many people in the room here have ever heard of bourbon? Anybody? You guys know what bourbon is? The app? Anyone? What was bourbon? What? Okay, you know. Good. He was right. He knows. Oh, you know. Right. It was a company. It was a location check-in app, and the company was going insolvent. They were about to go bankrupt, and they realized that the most used feature was their photo sharing. So they focused on that. That was their big aha moment. They changed the name of the company to Instagram, and a year later they sold the company for $1 billion. So every company does have these aha moments. For me, the aha moment was I opened up my third store in Philadelphia, and it was a bet the company move for us. And we used to take checks. People in the room who don't know what a check is, it's a little... I have to explain it to my kids. It's like an IOU on papyrus we write, and we used to take checks. And we opened up our third store in Philadelphia, and we couldn't get a permit. I picked this beautiful historic building. I was obsessed with this building. It was on the best block ultimately, and today it's still there today, the best block in the entire tri-state area. I'd been really good at picking real estate, but we couldn't get a permit to get a sign. And this was really my aha moment. They wouldn't give me a sign permit. It took me like another 6 months to get it. The first customer that I used to actually, believe it or not, I used to work at the store. And I worked the store floor. I was on the store floor with my wife. And the first customer came in, and we were panicked. I mean, this is our third store. Bet the company moved. We were out of money. This was it. And the first customer came in, and she spent almost $3,000. And she said to me, she said, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that ever happened in Philadelphia. I don't have to go to the mall anymore to buy my cosmetics. I can get my favorite brands right in my neighborhood where I live my life. And then she was writing the check, and then she sort of looked all around and goes, yeah, and what do you call this place? And I leaned over to my wife, who was standing next to me. I sort of flashed a smile at her, and I said, I think we got a business here. But so thank you for the compliment about, just this idea of New Jersey is a great example. We have more stores in New Jersey. I love New Jersey. I'm actually working on I won't say, and a special project some people here I'm working on, and one of the lines out of this secret project of ours is, the secret to my success is New Jersey. It's one of the obviously most dense, it's a funny joke, the secret to my success is New Jersey. An incredible state, the most dense state in the country, bolted onto the first and fifth largest population centers in America. But we really changed these towns, and it really was incredibly symbiotic for us. So we really hit on something. We came to these towns. In fact, there's one particular town, which I'll tell you, Summit, New Jersey, which is one of the most affluent towns in America. The landlord came to us in this unbelievable, what I perceived as an unbelievable location, and the landlord said, I'll basically give it to you for free. Why? I didn't understand why. Because she owned a lot of real estate in the neighborhood. And she believed that if she put a Bluemercury in the neighborhood, that the customers would start coming, and then a rising tide lifts all boats. And ultimately what happened, which don't be mad at me, you know, she ended up bringing me in for free, and everyone else got charged triple rent, right, as all the customers came into town. But it was a real win. It was a win for the customers because it brought these products which were, you know, previously hard to get. So they benefited, the customers benefited. The brands benefited because they had access to these clients that they would, you know, otherwise not have, and grew a sort of the share of wallet. And of course, the landlords benefited because of our use.
Hi. So
I didn't answer every question yet.
Well, we're almost out of time.
I'm kidding.
I'll be quick. So you touched a little bit about how your competitive advantage is based on giving people education and an experience. How are you able to compete with social media now that provides a lot of opportunities for education and tutorials where people can do that from the comfort of their own home? How are you able to compete with that?
You know, so you're saying, how do we compete with the internet? Why are people coming to our stores? Here's really the short answer to that is the Bluemercury customer, sort of the affluent, this is our clients, affluent, educated, decisive, comfortable in her own skin. This is our client. They do not, in our current experience, are not willing to depend on online algorithms to solve their beauty problems. They're not going to go try to get their rosacea or acne solved on the internet. They want a personalized experience. They come into our stores, pop in for a quick tip or trick, and we're in their neighborhoods where they live their lives. And this is so they're just not doing that. And, you know, while they're in there, we'll give them a sample of a product. And I think the difference between us and sort of any other company is that rather than coming to get one eye cream, we'll give you 3 eye creams. And my philosophy has always been, since I started the company, which is that I'd always rather have you leave with a bag full of samples than ever leave with the wrong product. In fact, true story, my older brother, my dad says I shouldn't call him my big brother because it makes me seem smaller somehow, but this is my big brother, came to see me, and he came down to visit me at the first store. We had one store in Georgetown, and he said, oh, you're going bankrupt. You're never going to make any money. And I said, why? He says, because all you guys do is give away free product. We were just giving away free products, samples. We used to dram. Dramming, anyone know what dramming is? It's when we just pump product out right out of the bottle and give it away. But the truth is, this became the secret to our success. It is part of our name. People say, where's the name Bluemercury come from? Blue was my wife's favorite color, and Mercury was the god of information. And this is what it was. We were giving information. Our whole core of our business was giving information to our customers, giving them free samples. And so these people aren't really going online to do that. And this idea of sending samples into people's homes, I don't know. Sort of this shotgun approach. We've never been shotgun marketers. We're very targeted. So we're going to give products that are targeted to you. And this has really been the secret to our success. One of the secrets to our success.
Super. Thanks.
I do okay?